Brother, are you all right?
No, I am not all right. I just shared a bottle of Kanar with Damar. That rhymes.
You're drunk.
Of course I'm drunk.
Well, good afternoon, evening, and morning to certain parts of this wonderful globe we are on. Welcome to the next installment of Kanar with Damar. Infinite delays and infinite combinations. Oh, Fino. That's a good one. But, so, this week so far, we have one of the cast members actually showed up.
Oh, that's me, right? Well, hello.
Epic as always, Gio.
Thank you.
For those who may be curious, BM Furball was up later last night than he expected, and he keeps complaining that 5 a.m. is too early for this on a Sunday morning. Well, to that, I just have to tell him, hurry up and get your ass back to... Damn it, I almost said Mars. But no, back to the States where you're in a more appropriate time zone.
What about person number 4, Jay?
And Jay, my guess is that he had to work and is either running behind or work late, because I do not recall him saying that he wasn't going to be available. Oh, 1 minute. Okay, and 1 minute debunk is dealing with the children, so he is unavailable at the moment. Let me let him know that... he may end up beaming in later. Which is interesting, because he's actually chimed in on the topic that came up in the Discord server that I thought would be rather fascinating to analyze this week. Yes, Fino, 1 minute debunk was going to join. He's dealing with the kids. We will see how long that takes him, and so he can join in after. He does have the link available, so when permission is requested, it will be granted. But in the meantime, for those who aren't on the Discord server, we actually had quite the question pop up, and let me go ahead and get over to that to properly word the question, which came from the viewer LRJ88. Actually, was it? Where's it? Hang on, let me get back to it. God damn it, I had it pinned, but now it's not pinned anymore. What the frick? Ah, here it is. Which Klingon has affected the galactic stage the most to date, by our opinion?
Well, we already had a little chat about this on your Discord. Well, no, on the Kanar with Damar Discord. But I think we need to differentiate between two categories. First of all, active actions that the Klingon did, and actions that were just set in motion by something that a Klingon did. Because I think which one of the two definitions you use actually makes a lot of a difference in what the actual answer to this question is.
Well, the way I initially...
Do you agree?
I do agree, because especially with the Klingons, there was definitely a clear division between how they operated and everything, because while you do have a very strong warrior cast that for the most part ran the show, ran the majority of what other cultures interacted with, so the understanding of Klingons does center around that ethos. However, not everyone that was excluded from the warrior caste was powerless. Because when you look at it, while being part of the Klingon Defense Force, part of the military, did open doors and to where you went and everything, the one that came to mind to me as one of the leading contenders, which you did mention, Chancellor Gorkon. While he was a military man, it wasn't his military prowess that brings his name into the conversation. It was actually a philosophical and ideological shift that he really started with, which came as a result of a natural disaster. But
A natural disaster?
But was it really a natural disaster?
No, it was not. We all know it was not. Somebody fucked up big time.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing, where having a military also be your governing body, you tend to get these instances and occurrences of greed and overreach and everything. And for those who weren't watching Twitter, I actually used a portion of the dialogue from early on in Star Trek VI, rather appropriately for the topic of the episode, as the text to go along with my announcing the stream was about to go live. And in the beginning of that movie, you have the explosion of the Klingon moon Praxis, which was their key energy facility and dilithium mining. It frickin' exploded. It was essentially their Chernobyl. Which actually...
Yes, somebody already mentioned this in the side chat, Ugly German Truths.
Yeah.
That's correct. It was specifically designed as an analogy to Chernobyl.
Yeah, exactly. And when you look at Star Trek VI in totality, with when it came out, when it was written prior to production, it really did parallel the United Federation of Planets as the end of the Cold War era United States, and the Klingons as the end of the Cold War Soviet Union and collapse into the independent nation states. And that runs throughout the movie, where you have hardliners who were stuck in the old way, not wanting things to change. And that was the biggest thing that even Kirk himself had admitted to. Facing that sort of change is inherently difficult, especially for people who grew up in a culture of this limitation and constant conflict and challenging back and forth between competing superpowers.
Well, it was not only Kirk, though, who thought that it was also Chang.
Yeah. Which,
by the way, we appear to have a new guest in here.
Yes, in the meantime, to fill one of the seats up at the navigation or ops consoles, we have You Wished. Although he didn't... Although you didn't really answer the question before popping in that I posed to you.
What was the question?
How your internet was today?
It's well, do you mind pornographic descriptions? Because that's basically how it's sucking worse than a Hoover vacuum.
So par for the course.
Yeah, pretty much. My wife couldn't even do Facebook today. So yeah, you wanna know how the internet runs?
Well, you have other ways to entertain the Parmakai.
Yes, I do, but you know.
And
I'm pretty sure that his Bethlet isn't really sharp at the moment.
Well, there you go. Hey, Jerry, did you catch my question that I asked?
Which, not I don't have it on the top of my head. Did you post it in the chat on the Discord where we're starting to talk about it?
No, I posted it on the Discord. Hang on a second, let me pull it back up.
Oh, the trivia question.
Yes.
You know, I saw it, and I honestly, I will admit, I saw it while I was on the toilet, right as I was finishing the other, when you posted it, and
praising Jared.
Well, it's better than saying dropping a deuce. But yes, I was indisposed. I was trying to figure out which of the 3 seashells I had to use.
Yeah.
But no, I
That's
I did see it. Honestly, I didn't have time to think about it that much. But I will read it out. Let's see if Gio has the answer without looking it up.
Oh dear.
Okay.
In the Star Trek reference book, Worlds of the Federation, who is the real-life personality that is named as the United Federation of Planets ambassador to the planet Izar? Hint.
No idea.
This planet and the real-life person shared a common occupation.
I have no idea.
Izar is the planet that deals with the meteorology of Federation planets. And
No.
the
I still have
person
no
behind it, well, the person behind it is Harold Taft, who was a local weatherman in Dallas, Fort Worth from, I want to say about 1950 something to 1991 when he passed away. He was there almost 41 years and 10 months for the NBC Channel 5 affiliate in Dallas, Fort Worth. But he is named as the ambassador to Ishtar.
Yeah, and actually, I just went ahead and pulled up the PDF of the book on my phone, and some of the images and the way it's laid out are rather interesting. I actually kind of wish that they had a bit more information about some of the worlds, but at the same time, it appears that this was written very early during the TNG era, and primarily focused on information that was actually sourced from TOS, a little bit of the animated series, it appears, and also the board game that a lot of older generation Trekkies played prior to TNG coming out.
Yep. But it was still, that was such a good compendium that it's a recommended must read. At least by me. I had the compendium when I was growing up. So, well, when I was growing up, when it came out, I ended up with it. I don't remember if it was a birthday present or a Christmas present, but I ended up reading it. I don't even remember what year I ended up with it.
I'm actually, since it's on the phone, I'm typing out the link in the live chat right now, because and it's weird. It's on a .net. I guess that just goes to show how long some of this stuff has been on the internet.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that Harold Taft was probably the first meteorologist west of the Mississippi with a full-time TV gig where he was actually the full-time meteorologist. It was really interesting to go back and look at that. When I found that, I had no idea, but that was one of the trivia things that I always kept in the back of my head for Star Trek.
And that's where local knowledge and affiliations will end up playing a role in that, because if you weren't in that area to know who the meteorologist was, why else would you know unless you're like frickin' Sheldon Cooper with an eidetic memory?
Well, I know I grew up with some Sheldon Coopers, and I know some guys from the Eisenhower that actually knew the answer to that question, and weren't even from Texas.
Again, eidetic memories like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm close at times, but not quite to that level.
That's only because you probably didn't read the compendium.
Not much. Most of the reading I did was actually some of the earlier beta canon novelizations, like Dreadnought, which was a fascinating read. And actually, what really caught my eye initially was the cover art and the revamp and update to the Federation class starship, which was classed as a Dreadnought. And it actually was one of the designs that began to break away from the paired nacelle rule. Let's see.
Well, there were a few ships over the years that did have uneven nacelles or nacelle numbers.
Yeah, but the initial that was actually something that that Gene Roddenberry wanted to avoid because, I guess, aesthetics.
I guess so. On the other hand, they really nailed it with the Enterprise D refit and all good things. I think.
Well, what was the class of ship that had the 3 nacelles? I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but
the large Dreadnought that appeared to be an addition, pretty much a Constitution.
No, this is actually closer to. This is actually smaller than Enterprise D.
Yeah,
so it would have been the Constellation class, wasn't it? When the Enterprise D
Constellation class had 4 nacelles.
Yeah, so the Constellation was
class
the
had 4
Stargazer.
That was Stargazer, for example, was Constellation class.
And the classes, the main class of ship that had 3 nacelles from TOS TMP era, so pre-TNG, that's the Federation class. That's the Dreadnought.
Okay. That's what I couldn't figure out, and that's what I was trying to figure out.
And yes, Fino, the whole kit bashing that they did for the remnants of the Battle of Wolf 359 was the generation of a number of TNG era kit bashes, which even in DS9 they ended up doing a few that were odd, such as
did you see the video by Junkball Media about the Kyushu?
Was the Kyushu the Excelsior class where they pretty much just shifted the saucer section back along this secondary hull?
No, the Kyushu was the shrunk down version of the Galaxy class with 2 additional nacelles and those weird pot things on top and bottom, which were kit bashed by actually painting text highlighters.
Yeah. Well, and so Junkball Media actually ends up getting a lot of that side of things really fascinating, where the amount of research he has done into it, and especially to pull up some of the archival sketch drawings, kudos, I mean, good on him.
Not only that, judging by his videos, he must have gone through hundreds of hours of especially Voyager, DS9, and TNG footage to find every single piece of set prop and compare it to other scenes to find out what was reused and what not.
Well, and part of that does come from production notes too, but yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, combination of the two. Dude is dedicated, but that's why his channel for that content is doing the way that it has. But so to the question,
but then the absurd humor, I guess.
But back to the actual topic at hand of the wonderful warrior brethren of the Federation. I guess we can call them that now, even though they seem to constantly bicker, more definitely like siblings. One minute they're fine, the next minute they're at each other's frickin' throats. And that's even going into the expanded beta canon of Star Trek Online, where they have a Klingon War storyline that went through took place through there. So, you wished, out of all the Klingons that have taken part in the galactic stage, who do you think has had the most influence on the galaxy?
Ooh, that would actually. Oh, God, you put me on a spot for a name, and I can't think of his name. That would be the betrayer of Ward's father. That would be the family that betrayed. It's not just one person. It's the entire daggum family
Duras.
that betrayed the Kittimer
Duras.
settlement.
Yep, the House Duras.
Yes, thank you.
Which okay, so why would you go with that house? More specifically, Duras himself of what would that be? Early to mid 2300s.
That's
primarily
early
because
TNG era.
Yeah, just prior to TNG.
Yeah, this is prior to TNG, about 40 years. Well, probably about 20 years prior. But the whole Kittimer episode was what brought the Federation and the Klingons into a peace accord.
Well, as we were talking before, that's where I would actually go to Gorkon if you go back even further to the explosion of Praxis and Gorkon actually having the initiative say, hey, we have to get this shit under control, and being constantly at odds with the Federation is not going to help that. So let's try to quell that so we can survive as a species.
You know, you probably could go that route, but for me, it was more the Kittimer Accords and what brought the Kittimer Accords out, and the driving force that the Duras family had to separate the Klingons from the failure of their father, the Duras children. And it was through that entire episode, or through that entire event chain, that you really saw how certain Klingons were refusing to get rid of their past and move forward with the way things evolved.
Yeah, and yeah, there's that, but the Duras family in general, as the chat has even pointed out, has had a history of meddling in a negative fashion, at least in terms of what their actions have actually ended up resulting in, be it they attempted to get rid of the Kittimer Accords. Didn't really work because the fighting between the Klingons and Romulan Star Empire did boil over, but prior to the massacre at Kittimer, which resulted in Worf being adopted by Dimitri Rozhenko.
Roshenko, yes. I'm actually not sure it was Dimitri. Let me check.
That's what I was trying to remember his actual first name.
Roshenko. Sergei. Well, almost, I guess.
Yeah, gotta love those Eastern Bloc names.
It could be much worse.
Oh, I know, but keep in mind, it was written for an American audience.
You know, it could have been worse. You could have ended up with Petrovich.
Depends on the spelling. Because, I will give the writers a little bit of credit for that. The spelling that they went with for Rozhenko, it actually is spelled the way it sounds. So,
whereas Petrovich could be either P-E-T or P-I-E-T.
Yep, Nikolai, and but anyway, so you have the Duras as a definite influencer, but I'm not sure if they'd have had the greatest impact. Because when you look at things, when you look at what their actions have resulted in, the multiple generations of essential traders, they did end up sparking the more, in Alpha Canon, the most recent Klingon Civil War. I'm not sure if I would call that a great influence.
Well, I mean, you didn't say a
Significant, yes.
positive influence. You didn't say a positive influence there, Jared. You just said an overall influence.
Well, my take on this is actually something completely different. I think the one Klingon that has had the most influence on the galactic stage, at least until the late 24th century, was Kolos. Do you guys remember who Kolos was?
I remember the name. I forget the stories that went with it.
He was Archer's lawyer. In the Enterprise episode where Archer was put on trial for destroying a Klingon battlecruiser or something.
The Arbiter, yeah.
Yeah, well, the defense attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you actually take a look at the entire canon, or at least at that point, he had been the first one who was really not at all affiliated, first of all, with the warrior clan. He was not in the warrior caste whatsoever. He was a lawyer, and he said, I think his family had been scientists for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually was the one that persuaded the Klingon judge, I think, which I think was the chancellor himself, not to sentence Archer to death, which led to the chain of the events that, in the end, led to the foundation of the Federation.
Well, to be fair,
this was not his. It was not his. It was not his intent.
But it was the result. So yeah,
it was definitely the result.
Well,
yes.
And to be fair, it's not that he argued against the penalty of death. He argued against the penalty of execution.
I think you're right.
Because the sentence ended up being a life sentence on Rura Penthe, which is effectively a death sentence.
Oh.
So instead of living for a few more days, he is like, oh, so he gets to live a few more months. That's some great compromise. Which, granted, they both end up getting sent to Rura Penthe, and then Archer is saved by the crew, and shocking. It's almost like the place touted as the worst prison to get sent to has a horrendous history of actual security. At least from what we get in Alpha Canon. And, S2000 GT does have a point. The Duras family did take out the Enterprise D. However, net gain, because honestly, when it came to capability, from even a defensive standpoint, I'll take a Sovereign class over the Galaxy class any day.
I agree. Still sad, though. But let's be honest, after the end of the Dominion War, the most Galaxy ships were at least badly damaged anyway.
Well, not just that. They actually, while they kept the space frame and power plant the same, they left a lot of the internal spaces that were taken up by family quarters and the additional science labs, and just kept them empty. So the Dominion War variant Galaxy classes actually did have a slight improvement, not just from technological upgrades of the defensive and weapon systems, but also they had a fair reduction in mass, so their engine performance, their actual movement performance, while not significantly increased, noticeably increased, so they could actually move better during the battles. But granted, that large of a ship with its sensor suite and communications platforms and everything, really wasn't a frontline fighter. It was a second to third line where they were used as command and control ships primarily. At least the analysis I've seen, not just from... Actually, Junkball Media has talked about this. Lore Reloaded has brought this up. But granted, sometimes he goes off the deep end a little bit with some of his analysis and being overly critical.
Yeah, he recently talked about Gul Dukat apparently knowing about the Bashir changeling.
Which I think would make sense when you look back on it. Because that was right before a major shift in the Cardassian politics. It was right before they joined with the Dominion.
I think it was in the same episode.
Yeah.
It was the two-parter.
Well, here's one
by Inferno's Light and Impurgatory Shadow, and by Inferno's Light, I think was the name of the two-parter, where Worf and Bashir were kept into this, or put into this Jem'Hadar prison camp.
Yeah, well, Worf was captured and brought there, and that's when you actually get the on-screen bit where you have Bashir there, you have Martok, you have a Romulan, and yeah, Worf and Garak went looking for an Auburn Tain. And
yes, right, they found a signal.
Yep. And that's actually where we learned probably the most impactful and, in my opinion, surprising character flaw that they gave someone during DS9 with Garak's claustrophobia.
No, that had actually been hinted at way before. In season 2 and 3, there were a few scenes where he was on the Defiant and he constantly complained about the small size of the ship. So the writers at least knew that, hinted at that being a possibility.
Hinted at it, but actual use of a character flaw like that typically Star Trek and on that type of sci-fi franchise hadn't delved into before that I recall.
Well, let's see. Esri was insecure, but that was the season after that. Troy was a fucking idiot. Does that count?
Well,
and there goes the demonetization.
Oh no. That's the thing. We swear quite often and still keep monetization. I might have to manually review it, but... But even then, so mental failings of a lack of intelligence or being brash and cocky. Think like McKay in Stargate Atlantis.
I've never watched Atlantis.
Oh, okay, so... Think Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory.
Barclay.
Close to Barclay, except more socially adept. Still has social qualm issues, but arrogant, cocky SOB.
Okay.
Hyper intelligent, but exceptionally cocky and full of himself. Now, granted, they have, in Stargate Atlantis, they ended up using this more as just a foil when it came to interpersonal stuff during the crises that would come up. But it's personality flaws like that tend to not be shown or handled in the way that DS9 did. Granted, there are a lot of topics that the writers of DS9 ended up addressing in a masterful fashion. You do have to give them credit for that. That again, and I think this is where a lot of criticism from older looking at the older series of Trek, comparing them to the new, you lose a touch of it, because do you think Discovery would ever have the captain unintentionally call one of his junior officers by a mocking moniker off of his last name?
No.
No, they wouldn't. They would not show that humanity, no matter how hilarious and comedic it would be. Discovery would not do that. The Orville would. Again, just another sign that the Orville really is the spiritual successor.
Yeah, I recently took a look at the second season of The Orville, and there was this episode called, oh dear, let me look it up.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think you messaged
Yeah,
me
it
about
was the one about the colony of female Moclans.
Where's...
I think. Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, that one it had a lot of Star Trek guest stars.
And wasn't even directed by...
Yes, it was directed by Jonathan Frakes.
And again, it Paramount and CBS, how did you let this happen? How did you allow yourselves to lose control of arguably your greatest asset?
So for the people that don't know, the two guest stars in that episode from Star Trek were Marina Sirtis and Tony Todd.
Yep. Which... was there anyone other than Michael Dorn that just gave the epitome in his delivery of the character of a Klingon? An imposing frame,
Yeah.
And the voice.
J.G. Hertzler. Martok. Martok was just perfect.
Martok was good, but I think when you think your average Klingon, especially with what was presented and what was talked about from the TOS era through, that continuity, when Tony Todd showed up as a Klingon, the way Todd and Michael Dorn honed in the Brothers of Moog really
The Sons of Moog.
Well, the Sons of Moog, yeah. But with them being the brothers, like the way they were and how they portrayed and delivered their characters, you're hard pressed to find another combination who actually put that much into each character. Because even when Kern was no longer in the Klingon self-defense force and he tried to be a part of Odo's security force, look at the difficulty that he had adjusting.
That's true. Now that I think about it, another candidate would be Grilka. You know, Walk's ex-wife.
Ex-wife, who knows where... You know, that is a dynamic that could have been interesting had they played
Had
it
they chosen
further.
to use her for at least 2 more episodes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, Grilka does show up in, was it Grilka showing up in Star Trek Online?
I know that she later shows up in various novels and ends up having a kid with Worf. Which is super weird.
Yeah. That was a detail I did not remember, but it although I do have to say, I'm actually surprised that Alexander wasn't taller, thinking of the offspring of Worf. Because
Yeah, but his mother was 50% human.
but still similar height to Worf.
That's true.
And Worf was a full-blood Klingon, so it's like, how did the genetics work on that? Because, you know,
I don't know.
because they have mentioned, you know, Pheno did bring up a trio that I did actually mention one of them when we were talking off air, but to the point that I was going to say before, when even in DS9, when Jadzia and Worf became an item, Bashir made a mention about the prospect of children and
Yes.
how difficult that would be.
Which I think they only talked about in the one episode where Jadzia ended up being killed off.
Yeah.
Sacrifice of Angels? No. Tears of the Prophets, I think. Yes, Tears of the Prophets.
Yep. Season 6 finale.
Yes, 626.
So with that going on, with the analysis of actors and characters portrayed in a consistent manner, you know what? There was one I forgot. I will give you one, Pheno, and it's actually the one that I mentioned off air when you brought up Kolos. Who did I respond with?
What?
Core, which, again, give classic Trek its due. They kept the same actor from TOS into TNG. Into DS9.
Yeah, I don't think Core was in TNG, was he?
No.
It was only DS9 for 2 or 3 episodes.
DS9.
Sort of
Are we
Kalis
talking-
and once
Are
more
we
on the
talking a
breach or
guest
something.
appearance, or are we talking something else?
No, it's still talking Klingon. So the actor who played Core in all of Core's appearances in TOS, which I think were 4 or 5 of them.
I think only 3. There was
3?
the Agonians, there was the Trouble with Tribbles, and there was... God damn it. There's only one way to find out.
Yeah, well, IMDb, here we come.
Not IMDb, Memory Alpha.
Well, either one.
Appearances TOS. Only 1? No, that's not true.
No,
Can't be true.
no. Core was a recurring Klingon adversary during TOS, and then showed up in, it was either 2 or 3.
No, apparently
of
that's correct. He
DS9.
only appeared in Errand of Mercy. He did not himself appear in The Trouble with Tribbles. He was only talked about.
Ah, that's what it was. Mention of Core. Core was definitely one of the more known Klingon commanders during the TOS era.
Yes, and in DS9 he appeared in Blood Oath, The Sword of Kalis, and once more Onto the Breach, which is where he died.
Hmm.
That was an interesting episode. Once more Onto the Breach.
And got to enjoy the delay to the chat. They're catching up to the same same correction of information that we did. But the Three Musketeers with Jadzia Curzon had the one appearance in DS9, but then Core returned later in life, actually, when he almost screwed up a raid, but then gave the ultimate Klingon virtuous sacrifice of covering the retreat, even though it was a suicide mission, which Worf was almost the one to do it, but...
Yes, Worf volunteered and Core injected him with some sedative and did the mission himself.
You know what? I think that's where I got confused with the additional appearances of Core. He showed up in the animated series.
True. And let me think.
Which, how bad is it that the animated series is closer to being canonically accurate than the latest abortion?
That's an insult to abortions. Because at least abortions are useful for something.
Yeah, it's just...
On the other hand, there are two positive things that I found about Discovery. Two characters.
Okay.
Pike.
True. They have potential with Pike, but I have no confidence in their ability to capitalize on that.
When it comes to sacrifices, he definitely made one. A big one. Because he knew what would happen to them regarding the accident with the Delta radiation. So that decision was worthy of a Starfleet captain, I think.
Yeah.
And the other one, I actually kind of like Saru.
Oh, the science officer turned first officer. Which, kind of wish he... Again, personality traits of the character being consistent throughout. His trepidation in the face of fear that is a biological aspect of his species. It was actually interestingly played with during Discovery. I will admit that, especially in season 1 where he's reintroduced to Burnham, and for lack of a better parallel, his spidey senses came out just on seeing her.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember
Also, the
that
actor
one.
is quite good when it comes to his performance. Remember, he's one of those people that you actually never recognize because he's always wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
For example, he was also Hellboy's fish friend.
Maybe that's why he's so used to dealing with those extended prosthetics.
That might be a reason, yeah. And I think he was also this hand-eye monster thing in Pan's Labyrinth.
Again, extended prosthetics.
Yep.
Huh. Hey, when you have a talent and you can make a niche and a job for yourself out of it, why not?
Exactly.
So, how you been, Jay?
Oh, not too bad. Just a long day at work, but what else is new?
Yeah, I kind of figured that's what was going on.
Hey, at least you're working, Jay. Some of us
Yeah.
are still on medical tenure, so or medical hiatus, I should say.
Well, you gotta take it easy and stop giving yourself heart attacks.
Hey.
Are we on 5 yet?
No, we're still on 2. We're still on 2.
Damn.
I thought I was going to have 3 last night, but a nitro took care of the pain, so I was like, fuck.
By the way, Jared, this reminds me of something. Do you think that the real-world equivalent of being assigned to a 1-century-old Miranda class is serving on a decades-old Kitty Hawk class ship?
No, because that's an insult to the Miranda.
Yeah, because nothing's shittier than the Shitty Hawk.
Oh, here's the... I gotta give the maintenance workers at the Japanese ship facility credit. The Kitty Hawk was in better material condition when it went into retirement than it was when it initially pulled into Yokosuka back in 1998.
Sheesh.
Yeah, when it pulled into... one of the guys that worked in the shop with me when I got there cross-decked from the Independence to the Kitty Hawk and rode it back, and actually got to talk to some of those pier workers that were Japanese nationals. The maintenance chief, the master of their teams who took care of all the ships there in Yokosuka, came aboard, did his inspection of the Kitty Hawk, and was flabbergasted at how she was still afloat. And
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for about 5 more years when the Eisenhower finally gets retired and replaced by the new JFK.
oh, and even then, there is no hope of any of the Nimitz class ships being saved by anything other than recycling.
Yeah, good luck doing that with a nuclear carrier.
Yeah, they have to dismantle too much of the ship to do the reactor cleanup and removal.
Yeah, because they have to rip the entire flight deck off.
Either that or a hole in the side by under the island between elevators 2 and 3.
No, it's easier just to rip the shafts out through the flight deck. They don't rip the entire flight deck off. They rip, 70% of it off, but it's a straight shot down once you get that through to the because there's only 2 floors technically. There's 2 levels that separate the flight deck to the hangar bay, and the hangar bay is 6 levels by itself. So you're technically only going through 1 level there in the center of the flight deck, and then you're going through another level or another 2 levels to reach the reactor rooms. It's just far easier to do it that way than go through top down.
Eh. And even then, there's the rest of the piping, and once you cut through, especially the flight deck, once that structural integrity is messed up, done.
Yep.
It's a shame that they don't have the option to eject the core.
Well, and even then, how many times has that system actually worked? Once?
Twice at least.
What was the other
Once
time?
Once in Voyager and once on the Sovereign class in Insurrection.
Yeah. Does Insurrection really count, or does Nemesis really count? I mean, they
do count.
They really screwed the even numbers are the good movies.
Well, I mean,
I think the last good even number.
You can't necessarily expect Kelsey Grammer to show up and save the episode.
Insurrection was odd, but Nemesis was even.
Yes. But I think Nemesis was alright.
Tolerable.
I mean, it might have been the 5th or 6th best Star Trek movie. Let's see, it was better than 5. It was better than 7. It was better than 9. And we all know that the Abrams movies don't count.
The what movies?
The Abrams movies. The new Kelvin timeline.
Kelvin timeline? What's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There should be a Starfleet regulation called the Kelvin Directive, which is kind of treated like the Omega Directive, but worse.
That would mix for some interesting movies. Kelvin mixed with the Prime timeline.
I think Fino has it right. Nemesis was meant to be the 11th movie. They just forgot to make number 10.
Actually, as far as I'm aware, they planned an 11th movie. Because obviously they did the same thing with Data that they did with Spock in the end of Star Trek 2.
He's dead, but not really. But he's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
But not
That's
really.
the point. It's actually a shame. Do you guys think that we're gonna see the Enterprise E in full glory again in Star Trek Picard? Or are we gonna get a new one?
No, you're probably going to see a Enterprise G. You'll
No.
probably see a
G?
golf class.
No.
It'd be Foxtrot if anything.
Yeah, it'll either be the E or F. It depends on how far down they go. If they go, essentially, so if they go prior to where Star Trek Online recently picked up, then you're looking E or F. And if it's the E, then Data being there makes sense because in novelizations they have established that Data does return and ends up being the commanding officer of the Enterprise after Picard. With, I think, a short stint of one before.
That just jacks up my entire vision and memory of TNG and the timeline that TNG put out with Picard and the Enterprise and the 3 different crews of the Enterprise all going to that one point in the neutral zone and firing off that
all good
reflector
things.
dish beam or what? Yeah.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about temporal mechanics. Once you fix something of that nature, what took place leading up to the correction doesn't matter. Because you essentially get a reset.
But see, if they still have Picard suffering from that degenerative neurologic disease or whatever it is, then that didn't fix the timeline.
Can we switch the topic away from temporal mechanics before my headache gets any worse?
What? We don't want to get a hold of Daniels and bring him in here?
Yeah, it has been some time since I read up on temporal mechanics. I think in about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Get it in about 4 to 5 weeks. Meaning the last time I have read it up was in the future.
Oh, Fino. F Star Trek Online. Worst fanboy wet dream bullshit ever. No, let's call it what it was. A fanboy got an idea to 3D model some of his favorite stuff from Star Trek. A company saw it and was like, hey, that's a great idea. We can make money off of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a money grab, if anything.
Yeah, it became one of those free-to-play loot box traps.
Yeah, that's where it's at now. And honestly, that's the only reason why I play it from time to time.
We still need to play a versus round of Star Trek Voyager Elite Force.
True. I still have it installed. I just haven't played it in a little while.
So, well, I currently have it installed, but, my computer. So I'll have to reinstall it in a few weeks anyway.
This is very true. So, LRJ88, it's interesting you say that because, oh God, who was I on the phone with? I was on the phone, I can't remember who, but I mentioned time travel, and it's like, yeah, it's, there's the meme, and it really is an apt meme. What do we want? Time travel. When do we want it? It doesn't matter.
Well, Ugly German Truth has the beeline on that though. He should have remembered to invest 20 cents in sensible storylines though. Bloody CGI renderings are the least bit of a good game.
Well, I don't know. Kyle has been pretty successful, and 95% of it is just the presentation.
Jared, World of Warcraft Classic had great storylines and sucky CGI. And guess what? It's kicking ass over World of Warcraft retail. So,
Jared, what is currently one of the games that I play the most? The one we recently played together?
Oh, the revamp of Brutal Doom.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I played it on one of the difficulty settings where the monsters regenerate. It forces you into a speed run by doing it that way.
That and blood.
Yeah. Yeah, Dana? Oh, you decided to send that image over? Yeah.
I sent a different one.
No, uh, Dora does have one of your preferred games right there, Gio. Quiplash.
True. And Jay, regarding that picture, that's actually just one person playing poker against himself and himself and himself and himself and himself.
Yeah, I just saw another one here. It's the here. I'll just share it
Which is kind of a sad thing to do in retrospect because you know that you're gonna lose.
to yourself.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, those are part of the paradoxes that can really make your brain hurt.
Did you guys notice there's actually just one Star Trek episode which completely works without running into any paradoxes or alternate timelines or anything? It's a TNG episode.
Okay.
Time's Arrow.
Is that the one with Twain?
Yes, Data's head.
Yeah, they actually do it right, because it's like, well, hey, wait a minute, we have to leave it, because then the whole causality and chain of events will still continue. But so how much older does that make Data's head than the rest of his body?
1885 or something, I think, was the given date. So let's just say
About 500 years.
A little less, 380 or something.
Oh, Fino, we are not going to talk about Xmas. But anyways, we actually did have a topic, and we haven't heard Jay's input onto this one yet.
Okay.
Most influential Klingon on the galactic scale.
On the galactic scale.
Ooh. I just thought of another player in this. But let's see where you decide to go with it.
Me too, Jared. I just had another one in mind.
I'm at a loss. There are so many potential options, but I'm gonna have to go with Core.
God damn it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I heard what you were saying about the Arbiter from Enterprise, who is also played by J.G. Metzler.
J.G. Hertzler, I think.
Sorry, that is my bad. But because again, by delaying Archer from an execution to Rura Penthe, they it helps set up the foundation of the Federation. But Core is just iconic in Star Trek, Jared, what did you think of just now?
The original and actual Kahless.
Yes, I was about to say the exact same thing. Kahless the Unforgettable.
Because without that unifying factor and origination of what became the modern Klingon ethos and culture, without that, they wouldn't be the players on the galactic stage that they end up being.
It is true. Although when people mention Kahless, I can't help but think of Worf and Dax's wedding.
Yes. God damn it, what was Kahless' wife's name?
Oh. You would have to say that, wouldn't you, Gio?
You know what? I'm trying to remember the songs.
Jay, why don't you pull that up on YouTube? Because I know Jadzia and Laura's wedding is on is the actual ceremony where they're locking Batlos together. That's actually on YouTube.
Lucara.
Yeah.
Her name was Lucara.
Yeah.
S2000 GT, all the Klingons in TOS looked like rubbish.
Not only the Klingons. Did you check out the Tellarites and the Andorians?
And the Tribbles.
Oh,
Yeah, but let's be honest. The Tribbles were only made this way because William Shatner just happened to have many toupees on set anyway.
Oh. Yeah.
That's probably what it was. Someone walked into his dressing room and it was like, what the hell? Wait a minute, I got an idea.
Actually, the scene where all those Tribbles fall on Kirk was not actually scheduled. It just happened to happen on the stage.
But where one of the set technicians put them all up for storage in that one spot, and then
Oh no, it was a candid camera in his dressing room.
Yeah.
yeah.
That, by the way, is a joke.
Oh man.
But so someone actually commented in the chat. I'm amazed nobody has yet mentioned Worf as a candidate.
Which Worf? There are two.
Not the lawyer from Kirk's trial.
So not Worf,
not
father of Moog, but Worf, son of Moog.
Yes.
Okay. No.
Well, I will say that Worf often tried the hardest to exemplify the nature and teachings of classical Klingon-y. And he did have a factor in some major events in the galaxy, but he did it most often from a Starfleet origination, not the Empire. So while he is a Klingon, he really does bridge a gap, which is why he really did make the most sense to be the new Federation ambassador to Kronos after the end of the Dominion War.
But remember, being ambassador for the Federation on Kronos was not his most important position. He was actually Chancellor for about 20 seconds.
and did arguably the most honorable thing to recognize, no, not me, Martok.
Yep.
Yeah, I think those are actually two characters we need to talk about, Martok and Gowron.
Hang on, let me get my eye protection for Gowron.
Jared, there's no lens protection for that. That requires alcohol.
No, there is a lens that's adequate enough. It's just currently being used by the flat Earth as the firmament.
Wow. I didn't realize we were going to go that direction. I thought these things were supposed to be flat Earth free.
Well, the pod shots every now and then are one thing.
Now that I think about it, can we actually name all Klingon Chancellors in Alpha canon Star Trek history?
If we want to go backwards, we definitely have a clear succession of the most recent three. From Martok to Gowron to Kempek.
No, that's not true. From Martok to Worf to Gowron to Kempek.
Worf doesn't count in that because while they
he had his fucking mantle. He had his mantle on, so that counts.
Worf was chancellor for 20 seconds. That's like Donald Trump getting elected and then making Mike Pence president.
You know that I could make a doing it joke right now, don't you?
Oh yeah, I know you could, but that's the point.
I just don't want to. Because that joke would sink like a fucking ship.
Well,
Oh, I don't know. My Twitter alerts. I looked at Twitter 2 hours ago, and I made a comment on Elizabeth Warren's postings about day one. She would put a immediate moratorium on new oil and gas exploration and immediate ban on fracking.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was like, yeah.
All right,
that would wreck our economy.
Let's get into a bit of the history here, both canonical and factual. So, yep, you've already seen it. So, the leader of the Klingon Empire retained the title Chancellor because the Klingon Empire was originally founded as the Empire under Kahless, the original Kahless. When he passed away and you have the succession, when the succession of emperors ends, the position of the Chancellor over that time grew in actual governing power. Which is why when the line of emperors ended, the Chancellery was able to just seamlessly take over because they were already effectively running the Klingon Empire by that point anyways. And with Klingons being having the hard-ons for continuance and not just family history but cultural history and the pride they take in it, they just ran with it and kept it from there. So having that position retain that title for the time that it did, to me, does make sense.
So let's see. Martok, Worf, Gowron, Kempek,
Yep.
and then Atzetpur, and and then Gorkon, right?
Oh, was it did it go from Azabur to Kempek?
No, there's about the century in between,
Yeah.
but we don't know about the time frame.
Yeah, so that... Yeah. So, through canon of the available ones, you go from Kempek to Abazur, the daughter of Gorkon. You have Gorkon. And...
I think that's it. I mean, we've seen the Klingon Chancellor in 2154 under Archer.
But no name.
I don't think... Yeah, no name. And I think we could do a similar progression for the Federation presidents, because the only one mentioned by name ever, I think, was Yaresh Inyo. Well, apart from Archer, but that happened in the time between Enterprise and TOS. Even though it was mentioned in Enterprise.
Yeah, because I don't think the UFP president was... The name was actually given, even in Star Trek 6.
In Star Trek 6, that was the Elfrosian played by Kurtwood Smith, wasn't he?
Yes, Kurtwood Smith, and who... Actually, I'm surprised at the number of times he's been in Star Trek.
Oh yeah, at least 3 or 4 times. He also played that guy in Year of Hell in Voyager. You know, with a weird time worm thing that falls to the ground and breaks.
Yeah, part of the...
Nobody actually understands. Year of Hell Part 2.
Yeah, he was part of the Krenim. Oh god.
Yes, exactly. Krenim.
But... But yeah, so while Worf did have moments of influence, he really hasn't had the string of influence that we've gone from there.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this Ravari. Emrek, Elrel, and I guess also Tekuvma.
No, Tekuvma was not the Chancellor. He is just the head of a house.
Doesn't count anyway.
Yeah.
So here's what Memory Alpha has.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. So L'Rell, that's from Star Trek Discovery. do we really want to count that at this time?
No.
MREC, again, that would be Discovery.
No,
No.
that's
2150.
Enterprise.
Yeah, okay. The only named Chancellor from that era. Go to Malga. Where did that come from? Come on, source.
It doesn't
Ruled
say
in-
anything about the timeline.
Okay, no. So, Worf mentioned the incident when talking about the Breen in Till Death Do Us Part. So, that was a historical reference to the Chancellor during the Second Empire.
Yes.
So, huh.
But see, they actually officially list Worf as well.
Yeah, I still don't personally count it because, sorry, 20 seconds and one decision does not a Chancellor make.
Yeah.
Well, so here's a comparison. It would be like winning the election for, say, U.S. president. So say in the next election cycle, someone beats Trump. Whoever it is.
Yes. Oh, I
But
know what
they-
you're going for.
But they never take the oath. They win. They get touted as the presidential nominee, but during that nominee process, they resign.
I actually have a better idea. Let's just say that you guys elect a Democratic president in 2020, and 1 minute before Trump officially has to go, he resigns, thereby giving the presidency to whatever your vice president's name is, Pence, I think. And his only action as president would be to pardon Trump and then resign as well. If you know what I mean.
I know where you're going with that.
Does that make sense?
Essentially, oh, I lost. Wait a minute, martial law. No, I didn't. I mean, it's not like there are countries who no country in the world have done that before. That never happens. That's a pipe dream.
I cannot recall a
would do
single
that?
one that did this.
Brazil, Venezuela. We're trying not to go that far back. We're trying to keep monetization because that sort of salute would definitely get monetization gone.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Wait, which one are you talking about?
A particular Austrian.
You mean an Austrian who went into another country and then tried to become president there?
Mm-hmm.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, not as well ripped, but he was drugged up too.
Hey, Jared, should I share that name?
Go for
Didn't he
it.
suffer from syphilis?
Don't know if it was syphilis, but he definitely had. When they look at archival video footage, they actually think that he had Parkinson's. Yeah.
Yes. It's also possible that that was due to his meth addiction, though.
Yeah. Oh, and when you think about it, having a healthy meth addiction for the entire armed forces would explain why the initial stages went the way that it did. Now that would be quite the interesting combination.
Check out what I wrote in Discord.
That would be fairly accurate.
Do I want to know why Curzon would get that title?
He was always referenced by Cisco and everybody else as a, let's
As
just
being
say, rather
being prolific.
optimistic. Yes.
Now, it would there. So, here's the difference. Troy's mental abilities and mixed with Jadzia's intelligence and passion in the body of Ezri. That would be a fun combination.
That would be, but I'm kind of scared about what type of,
Now we're talking about that again. Why does it always have to end with
I
us
was
talking about
trying to figure out, how to say it, and before Sheldon Cooper's voice of Coitus came to mind, yeah, it would be, that would be one definitive not being able to slut shame individual out of Star Trek.
Is that an accurate description of what I just posted in Discord, Jared?
Wow.
But wait.
You know what? If you want to show that one,
Let me get
correct
back
me
to
if
my
I'm wrong, but
laptop before-
don't tribbles turn aggressive towards Klingons?
oh yes.
Yes.
So keep that fact in mind when you take a look at the expression on this face. So here's a question. What type of beverage do you think Kanar would actually most parallel?
Seagulls?
You mean like in...
With the way they drink it, I would actually think it would compare to a scotch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scotch
No,
or
but
bourbon.
it's thicker and let's just invent a drink that's similar to this. It's 50% maple syrup and 50% vodka. Let's call it a liver glue. That's the closest analog.
If you could get the taste factor right, that bit of sweetness with the vodka, we could probably make something off of that.
Yeah, but vodka's really thin, though. I mean, that's the only problem is that it's got to be thick, and
Okay.
it'd be closer to a high-end alcohol content schnapps or Southern Comfort.
Okay, 50% Jägermeister, 50% maple syrup, and about 10 drops of black printer's ink.
There you go.
Coconut rum, Jägermeister, and pineapple juice. And the color's not far off.
And I like the name of the channel, too.
Would be unpalatable. That mixture would be unpalatable.
Not
You couldn't
necessarily.
drink enough of it to get drunk, though.
Synthaholics, that's awesome.
Yes, I love it. Now, so hear me out. I think it would actually, that combination could actually be a fair parallel because it does have a similar enough appearance, and also keep in mind, what is the look on the face of a lot of people who drink Kanar? You get that,
Disgust?
yeah, you get that disgust look. So it being Jägermeister with rum and pineapple juice, I could see that being what they had in mind.
Yeah, true.
I must say, though, that personally, I cannot drink Jägermeister anymore. The reason being that I actually can smell how badly it is distilled. But when you work at a chemical lab, you actually learn to distinguish the smell of the different solvents. And I can smell the isopropanol in Jägermeister.
Mm.
which is rather nasty because the body metabolizes it to acetone and it just gives you a horrendous headache.
Ah.
I'm waiting to see if he actually drinks it.
You know, Jägermeister was one drink that during when I was on active duty, a lot of people were like, oh, let's do this with Jägermeister. Let's do this with Jägermeister. And
Yeah.
like, no.
You know what, Jared? You can buy the stuff in 2.5 liter bottles over here.
Why would you want
That's
to?
about half a gallon. I don't know.
Well, he seems to enjoy it.
I
so.
actually got one of those. As a birthday present on my 18th birthday from my parents. Yeah, I know.
Why can't we all have parents like that?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, in retrospect, I think they just wanted me dead.
Jared, I sent Writer Dinosaurs the link to the JM documentary in air quotes.
Oh,
Oh, he had fun with that.
oh, this will be a fascinating response from him.
Well, let's see. He's read the whole thing so far. 3 commas in the whole text. Wow.
Oh, this reminds me of something. Do you guys know what... Shit. How's it called? Strohrum 80.
No.
I'm gonna send you a link. It's an Austrian rum.
Oh. Not only does he have the Kanar shot, he has the Romulan ale cocktail
Is it blue?
with latinum.
Romulan ale is, I think, isn't blue. At least it wasn't in some cases.
Yeah, it's blue.
Yeah, it's,
Andorian ale was always blue.
Andorian ale was always blue, but the times that they showed Romulan ale on screen, which I think dates back to Star Trek 6.
Star Trek, actually as far back as
Yes.
Star Trek 2, I believe.
3.
And they show with
No,
Kirk
3.
and McCoy.
3. It was as early in 3 before they stole the Enterprise.
Hold on. I think it's 2 with the Wrath of Khan.
By the way, Jared, check out the link I sent into the Kanar with Damar group.
Let's take a look here.
Let's just say most people use it for flavoring cakes, but some people actually drink it, and it's 80% by volume ethanol.
Oh, that's vanilla extract.
That's what?
Vanilla extract.
It's just distilled rum, up to 80%.
Yeah. Talk about getting screwed up quick. Although
Let's be honest, absinthe I think is worse.
The pairing with the desserts, though, that they recommend, that could be interesting.
I wouldn't trust this. This is Austrians after all.
Well, does that really surprise you? So, it looks like we have a new addition. 1 minute debunk. I take it the kids are properly stowed and made safe for sea?
Yeah, they're all tucked up in bed. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Just fine.
Yeah. So you're talking about something very alcoholic?
At the moment.
Well,
Which is fitting
originally
for
we were
Kanar with Damar.
Originally, we were talking about who's the most important Klingon in Star Trek history. And then we started talking about which decks to have sex with. And now we're kind of stuck at alcohol.
That
So which Klingon was the most important, and why was it Martok?
So that
I don't think anybody's ever suggested Martok as a top contender. Just an important one to talk about.
Oh, yep. Okay, when he gets the glasses.
No one
All right.
suggested Martok?
Well, we've mentioned Martok as being one of the known, but it's a question of why would he classify as the most influential? Now,
Do you want me to make a case?
during his time period with his exploits during the Dominion War and him being the Chancellor, okay, but on a galactic scale, why would he rate higher than, say, the actual original Kalis, who was the founder of the Empire?
Okay, so if Kalis hadn't existed, there would be some other Klingon that founded some other empire. That I feel that's very Klingon-centric. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to speculate how things would turn out differently with a different Klingon society. I just really like Martok. But
Who does not like Martok? Let's be honest. In
He
terms
was
of his,
really
his
pivotal in the
ethics,
war.
he's one of the most honorable ones.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, he placed him over Worf.
Yeah, he was really pivotal during the war.
Not only
in
during the
DS9.
war.
Well, the war was kind of a lot larger scale than just the Klingon Empire. If the founders had won, everyone would be screwed permanently. Or, not permanently, but for a very long time.
5 or 6 generations.
Oh, yeah.
At least.
According to Bashir's
The calculations.
genetically manipulated friends, whose name I've forgotten because they were kind of irrelevant in the long term.
Yeah.
But, well, there is
Well,
that. But at the same time, a good portion of that push and founding, yeah, Martok was there, but then you would also have to pair him with Worf.
And with Gowron.
Well, Gowron...
At least in terms of importance, yes.
Yeah, Gowron has his play in it, but Gowron definitely has a negative to him because instead of letting his generals who were doing a kick-ass job continue to do said kick-ass job, he got politically threatened, decided to step in, and started fucking shit up.
He got into a bit of a dicks waving contest.
Some would even say he pulled a Hitler in that aspect.
Yeah.
Because think
yeah.
about it. World War II, when Hitler actually listened to his generals, was when Germany made the progress. When Hitler decided to start meddling and being more hands-on, is when things went downhill. Same thing happened with Gowron.
Not only hands-on, he also designed some very idiotic tanks and weapons in general that were just useless. For example, because they were too heavy or because they didn't have top-mounted machine guns for defense. That's a random World War II fact you didn't know.
Yeah, no. I honestly did not know that one.
Yeah, sorry, if you design a tank that weighs almost 200 tons and it takes up so much fuel that you have problems supplying it while it's moving, it's not useful.
I can believe it.
But, yeah. No, I you know what? Yeah, Martok is definitely up there. When thinking about that, yeah. See, that's the thing, people. I can be swayed with a proper argument that has a rational basis to it. Oh, God.
Did you discuss any of the Klingons from Star Trek Discovery?
We
No.
talked about them briefly and then decided to ignore them.
What Star Trek?
Yep.
No, I here's the thing. I'm not going to entirely discount Discovery and what they have put forth and ignore its existence. However, I do treat it as a separate entity and a separate timeline, similar to the Kelvin timeline, because
That's a reasonable way of maintaining sanity.
yeah, exactly. And
Guys, check out Discord.
You know what? I know. 1 minute debunk. You're not in the group.
Yeah, I can pull them up.
Kanar with Damar group chat. So go ahead and show them. And you know what? Let's clue the audience in on it as well.
God,
Yes,
fucking crappy.
in-jokes are such great viewing. I'm excited. What is it?
Sure. So this is Gio's addition to it.
All right. Here's one of mine.
That's the one. I didn't even see which that she had the compression rifle. I just see the fact that she's holding a weapon, and then the rest of the image to the right, and that's where it's like, oh my god, I already know what it says without having to look.
This is Lookapig's addition to the Star Trek meme universe, I think.
Yep.
I got another
It
one.
was Wesley's fault.
Okay, so Wesley constantly gets a ration of shit. Is there another character you can think of that got the pushback in similar fashion from other series?
Other Star Trek.
From other series or from the same series?
From just other. So from the fan base, Wesley Crusher got a ton of flack in TNG.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of another character that got a similar pushback from the
Neelix.
other.
Neelix, yeah.
Really?
Nobody liked Neelix.
I like Neelix. Like, kinda.
Yeah, as I say, nobody
He-
liked Neelix.
No
I feel
one was.
validated.
No one was like, "Oh my god, a Neelix episode." It's kind
I
of.
really find it funny how they in the beginning compared Dr. Phlox to Neelix.
No,
Because the characters
Phlox.
kind of look
That
similar.
makes sense
was
to me.
so. Yeah.
Fox,
Okay.
it's like they
visual-
took Neelix and were like, wait, it was a good idea, but we messed it up completely. Let's
Yeah, but
try that idea
Phlox
again.
was
for
Phlox
good.
was much better in my opinion.
Undeniably, Phlox was pretty much, I think, the best character in Enterprise.
Optimism, Captain.
He feels really alien, which is, I think, what they were going with Neelix, but he just kind of came off as creepy.
Yes.
Hey Jared, this would be Pig if he ever got a real job.
Remember this one episode where Neelix cooked the first meal for 7 of 9? That one's great.
Oh, it's so true. All right, so
I can actually build up on this. The video that Gauron looked up earlier was called "Neelix teaches 7 of 9 how to swallow."
Oh. Oh, that no! Wow.
I think Neelix, all the cooking stuff was really boring because it's the same sort of trope literally every time he cooks something, and then people are like, "Oh, it's a bit weird, but I guess we have to eat it because we're in the Delta Quadrant." Badum tish.
Yeah.
And that got old so fast. But I actually think a lot of the Neelix episodes were pretty good. I think
Name me 2 that were really good.
the one where he dies and then comes back with Borg nanoprobes. Ignore the fact that doesn't make any sense for like the future episodes, but his angst was pretty good.
Wait, you mean Voyager had an issue of its episodic nature given the situation that it was put in? No, say
No.
it ain't so.
Well, every time they cure death and then kind of forget about it is,
I
problem.
think they actually did this twice with Neelix. Remember the holographic lungs? I think that
Oh,
also
with the
counts.
videos.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's another one
Vidians,
where
yes.
they are trying to resurrect Telexians from the.
Yeah,
That one's interesting. Certainly.
what was the name of the super weapon? Cascade?
Yeah, big bad super weapon.
Yeah, whatever.
That was at least interesting. It kind of tried to tackle.
Metreon Cascade. That was it.
Yeah, that's it. Very good. I felt that tried to tackle a tough subject and did it okay.
Yeah, but it was not as good as the one where they used the holographic Cardassian, let's be honest, Dr. Mengele parody.
That one was... That was one of those flashes where it's like, okay, Voyager, I see where you got the idea that you're listening to the criticism, you need to be more like the other Trek series and address some type of relevant political stuff. But did you have to go that far? It definitely came off as an over adjustment.
Maybe a bit, yeah.
Comes over as edgy.
But for no reason other than just trying to be edgy.
Yeah. It's because Voyager's eternal problem, where they just didn't. They wanted to make diet TNG, but people wanted more, so they structured it with this apparent scenario that kind of begged for some sort of seasonal arc, and then just constantly reset everything.
Well, yeah, so recently Lore Reloaded has done a series where he's broken down the Year of Hell episodes. And one of the questions that came up that I haven't honestly watched to see how he addressed it, I still have to watch this part of it, is did the two-parter Year of Hell deserve to be closer to, if not an entire season arc?
No.
I think a larger than a two-parter, like have it as a standoff miniseries, yes, because then you can get into more of that nuance and hardship and how you go from day to day changes and make it even, you know what? No, not even a miniseries, an actual movie premise. That's what that storyline would have done good as. A longer runtime, but not necessarily an entire season.
Yeah, maybe like 5 or 6 episodes like they did with the Dominion occupation of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, where it's an overriding story arc, but it's not the only story arc.
Here you go, Jared.
Nice.
And also,
the old... So, a red shirt and a stormtrooper are in a firefight. They just look at each other. The stormtrooper misses. The red shirt still dies.
Very good. I think Year of Hell, people just wanted Voyager to have some grittiness, some like bite that actually had meaning. 'Cause the thing I don't get so much about Year of Hell is, in the end, it's got the classic rubbishy, everything goes back to normal, it was all a dream kind of ending. So ultimately, there's no consequence from it.
I got another one.
I'll get that in just a second, Gia. Hold on. Here we go.
You know, Cisco was offered. He Wow. Apples and onions. I liked Batman.
Oh, okay. Where's the...
It's like, okay, it went to nowhere. But, so... Remember, it was always meant to have the reset button in it. It would have been Dallasing the series. You know, I'll be honest. I'm not old enough to have watched Dallas.
I don't even know when it aired, so I'm probably not old enough either.
Dallas?
70s
let me
into
guess,
the 80s.
Really, 70s into the 80s? I think it was 1963.
No.
No, it was.
If only there was some way we could look up this information.
Seriously, nobody
Yeah.
got that
Sort
one.
of like vast
I think
computer
it ended in May. It ended in May of 1991, if I remember correctly.
And yes, Gio, I understand what you were
19
referencing, but sorry, I don't have a book depository to let everyone know about it from.
1978 to 1991.
Really? Ended 91?
I told you that.
Yep.
Again,
357 episodes.
I think it was May 5th of 1991, if I remember.
so I was 7 when it went off air.
I was 10.
Oh,
I was
8.
18.
I
You
was
win.
minus
18?
2.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Like the only thing about Dallas I know is that cliffhanger that they used of who shot whatever his name was.
JR.
Yeah,
JR, that was in 1980.
yeah. Beyond.
When did they figure it out? Did they figure it out? Spoilers, I guess. Jeez.
Yeah, it was Sue Ellen's sister that shot him.
Yeah,
Cool. I don't need to watch Dallas now.
yeah. Beyond that tidbit, I know nothing about the show other than its name.
Well, I guess it played in Dallas? Maybe?
Was it Dallas or was it Fort Worth?
The pilot season was
No,
shot
it was
entirely
actually-
on location in Dallas.
It was shot in and around Dallas County. That because they shot some episodes in Garland. They shot some episodes in Lancaster, Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Grand Prairie, Irving, the Colony, all up around. And then their main building that they used was the Lomas building in downtown Dallas, and it's just about ready to be tore down now. But all the office scenes were shot in the Lomas building in downtown Dallas. That I know
Got another
because my
one.
aunt would come in. My aunt would come in and complain about the actors being there and not being able to access certain elevators that went to her floor in the Lomas building. So she had to take the long way around getting up to her floor.
Oh, fuck. LRJ 88. It was shot in Chicago. Everyone gets shot in Chicago.
Oh God!
But you know, simply because you know what, in the back of my head, I've been thinking about this of trying to rank influences on the galaxy from the Klingon Empire, and honestly, trying to properly rank the top 3 is difficult, but if anyone did have a slight edge, I would have to give it to Martok because, you know, saving the galaxy from an invasive, aggressive species or empire, or sorry, they weren't an empire, they were a union. I'd have to say that gives him that just slight edge over both Kahless, the original, the actual Kahless, and the Chancellor / Judge of the Klingon Empire during the trial of Jonathan Archer.
God.
I think it's those 3.
I know the last one was really bad.
On so many levels.
Wow.
Oh shit!
You
Problem
know,
is,
you know,
we don't know
it's
enough about
not
Klingons.
wrong. Well,
It's really not, but I mean, I'm not going to walk up to my wife and say, hey, babe, are you the prime directive?
eh,
That's probably worse than this one. So yeah.
it's definitely a groaner in this similar fashion.
That meme's as good as Star Trek Discovery. Oh, it's
But
probably
so-
better.
I just found a great one. Give me a second. It's loading.
Oh,
Oh gosh.
wow.
Oh,
There we go.
yes, it's your World War II fighting age.
Oh my god, Berg. Whoever managed to get that timing, to get that frame, you,
What
sir,
was she doing?
win the day.
I want to know what frame
You know
that
what would be
episode
funny
is
if it actually
from.
if it turned out that this was actually a promotional shot for the series.
It looks like she was about to sneeze.
It does look like a sneeze, and it's season 5 or 6 or something. Because she's wearing the
She's actually
standard
in
fleet
uniform.
uniform. Yeah.
Might be the one with Captain Jellicoe. Chain of command, I think.
Who was that famous Klingon female pilot? Amelia Starhard. But so the question of not knowing enough Klingons to really make a good evaluation, I would actually say that of the different species that the United Federation, wow, that the UFP interacts with both internally and externally, when it comes to individual characters, we know the most about the Klingon Empire.
Yeah, I mean the only other contender would really be Vulcans anyway, and
Yeah.
they're kind of very wishy-washy at the best of times.
Pragmatic to a fault. You know what? Actually, you know what? I will compare the Vulcans, especially in the Enterprise and TOS eras. I will compare them to the IOA from Stargate. We want to have a say. We want you to listen to us because technically we're in charge, but we want none of the responsibility of actual decision making. This week on Animal Hoarders, is it food or is it a pet?
Oh god.
What the hell?
Ah, everybody loves Q, the biggest troll in the universe.
I thought that was Riley. Oh, we're talking skill in trolling the entire universe, not the size. Okay.
Here you go.
Oh, so here's a question for you. How the hell do you go from core not having ridges to core having ridges in his lifetime?
Well, I guess it's a cure for this augment virus.
Yeah, augment virus.
Yeah, that they reckoned it with
Implant.
the augment virus, but when you look back at it, the cure to the augment virus is what got rid of the ridges in the first place.
Yeah, remember Archer says maybe you'll have a career in like forehead reconstruction.
Cosmetic surgery
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
that didn't take off until 250, almost 300 years later.
Yeah. Klingons are like fragile masculinity embodied. So it took them 200 years before they could get the nerve up to get their dominance ridges put back on. I don't know, what do you want me to say?
You know, that actually would explain a lot.
Who's a Ramones fan?
So are we saying that we could gauge a Klingon's testicular fortitude by counting the ridges on his forehead?
Potentially.
I'm sure they want you to think that.
Well, yeah, they may want you to, but... Alright, well, you know, this is definitely a debate that can continue on. And you know what?
Why don't we just ask the audience?
Yeah,
Okay, so audience, do us a favor. Just type in the name of your favorite Klingon.
Rodent, no last
And
name.
Rezovsky, yes, I was talking about the Orville earlier.
Warriors do not wear frilly underwear on duty.
Jared, I must protest. I am not a married man.
Oh, freaking... You know what? I do have to give TNG that. The Barkley episodes were funny.
That wasn't a Barclay episode. It was a Q episode.
That's right. That was Cupid.
Yes.
A dead one.
A dead one? Wow.
Okay, Kirk.
I got 2 Kalises, 1 Worf.
Oh, I just thought of one now that I think about it. I need the name, if they have a name for him.
Who is it?
Hold on just a second here.
Who the fuck is Quartus?
You know what? Rez, go track him down and bring him over here. So Quartus is actually a guy that I haven't spoken to in a while. We kind of shifted from the flat Earth debates and discussions to Earth discussions onto Gem Panda's Discord server. But since I stopped frequenting that server, I haven't really talked to him in a while, and I would actually enjoy getting his input on this.
I hate to bring up Enterprise here, but what about Klang? In his blood, he carried the deception of one of the houses of the Klingon before they had a civil war. Just not as the most influential, but one to consider.
Does that affect anything outside of Klingon? Or outside of Klingon society?
We don't know what the Klingon Civil War could have done to the rest of the galaxy. Because that's why Saval wanted the Vulcans to do it, because they already had the communications lines in place. They would be able to deal with the situation better, yada yada yada. But he was afraid that humans would mess things up by losing Klang. Yeah.
You know, yeah, these don't go over 2 hours, and we're right at the limit. So, shut up, Fino. But yeah, we will definitely readdress the topic and even go ahead and take a look at things in a different light, because...
So, do we already have a topic for next time?
No. See, and that's the beautiful thing. With the Discord server, with the Starfleet Intelligence section, people can make suggestions for topics to cover, or go ahead and chat in the other sections of it, and it just might lead to a topic like this one did.
I already have that. I already have a suggestion.
I have one. We'll have them.
Yeah.
Which Jeffrey Combs character is the best?
That's easy, though.
Oh,
I'm kind of torn
How
between
many-
two.
Wayne and
Well,
Grunt.
you can't discuss it now. Then it won't be a
Yeah,
discussion
that's
for another
that's
time.
the point. So everybody shut the fuck up
Yeah.
about him.
Yeah,
My question was, does Worf have ears?
That's a good question because you
What?
never see his ears.
I haven't thought about
think
that.
If
I
you,
watched every episode, and I was waiting for the bit towards the end of DS9 where he's upside down, and I still don't think you see his ears. So
okay, so
who knows?
so this will be a departing thought for the audience. If you don't see something in a sci-fi franchise, does it exist or does it not?
Well, we know that Worf's grandfather had ears.
But that doesn't necessarily follow. If you do not observe it, does it exist or does it not?
Are ears hereditary in Klingons?
Oh God, no!
Fi-
I just found the worst thing ever.
Uh-oh.
Oh God, why? Why? Seriously, why?
Uh-oh.
It's coming in on Discord.
You
Hey,
found
Jared.
my William Riker fan fiction?
What the...
Oh.
Oh.
What is
Damn.
this? What is this supposed to be?
That is Burgess Meredith as War.
No.
Just, no. Here, let me save everyone.